adlaw, may hapon suko. Diyan nasad na din hing kapita sa Cebu. Welcome to the Aperture Pundit on a very, very special edition of our, twice, 3 times a week na podcast at pambabad na goal, no? With the country's politics. In any case, our future governor of Cebu, Baricuata, was gracious enough to host us with our very, very special guest ngayong araw na to in her home. And salamat po, Gov. Baricuata. No? So mga Bisaya, yung mga audience ko dyan, let me just check kung okay ba yung audio natin. And before I proceed to call on our very, very special guest, na talagang sinadya pa tayo dito sa Cebu to really articulate yung mga pinaglalaban niya dito nga sa pagtakbo niya sa Senado. So, kumusta na po yung mga nandyan, at inaabangan, ang dami nyo kanina nag-message sa akin. Paki-check na lang po if my audio is okay na, and then we can proceed. Okay. Alright. Sorry. I'm trying to see who's up. Any comments there? Na nakikita? I can't see any comments on my ano.
Ikeda Janet is online for you.
Well, Ikeda Janet, hi, how are you? Is my audio okay now? Okay na raw? Okay na? Alright. Okay, mga bista. Okay, this is one of my most awaited moments in my very short vlogging career, to really interview this man. And medyo busy siya, sa ilang mga araw at ilang mga buwan. Pero ngayon, pinaunlakan po niya tayo, And I would like to call on, this man needs no further introduction. Attorney Vic Rodriguez. Ladies and gentlemen. Attorney Vic, welcome back to Cebu. So, yes, Attorney, it's been what, 2 weeks after the filing of your candidacy, October 8, how's the family of the wife, the children, the rest of them?
As usual, yung ating pamilya ay busy with, my children are busy with their schooling, and of course my wife is the one arranging everything for me and for my children, and making sure that our house is in order. But before I further reply to your initial question, TV, batiin ko lang lahat ng iyong taga-subaybay, lahat po ng nanonood sa iba't ibang social media platform. And yes, I am here. The amateur candidate is very much present in the amateur pundit.
Right.
So thank you for having me.
So lahat tayo amateurs.
Amateur tayo dito. Itong laranang pinasok ko, amateur ako dito.
Kami din, we have to admit. Anyways, again, it took you quite a significant amount of time to decide. What really made you decide na, without going into the details of your own personal, private conversations with family? Ano ba talaga yung nag-group mo on the last day of filing na? And I saw your statement after the filing of the COC na talaga yun. I was really happy. Would you mind telling our viewers now?
Well, unang-una, it wasn't an easy decision to make. I've said, as I have described myself in the opening of your program, I am an amateur candidate, I am an amateur politician, and I am not ashamed to admit that I am an amateur in this coming midterm election. And the decision to run, it was really a struggle, not because kaya kong talikuran ang sambayan ng Pilipino, kundi hindi ko talaga nakikita yung aking sarili bilang kandidato prior to me heeding the call of the hakbang ng maisog, heeding the call of our overseas Filipino workers, and of course heeding the call of the Filipinos here in our country to represent them. Hopefully, pag pinahiram tayo ng inyong mandato sa Senado. At hindi naging madali. My decision to run came about only last October 5 during the meeting of the core group of Hakbang ng Maisog. And I told them, look, ladies and gentlemen, it's a handful of brave men and women. Wala tayong nabitals. We do not have the money. We are not a party. It's a social movement. And we do not have the logistics, but we have the heart. And we have the sincerity, and we have the conscience to fight for the people. So I said yes.
Well, yes, no? At medyo maraming taong nagala. They were overjoyed when you made such a decision. At you run as an independent, no? At narinig ko dun sa statement mo na yung partido mo ay ang sambayan ng Pilipino.
Tama.
At I would suppose no, marami ding siguro mga partido na nangliligaw sa iyo to run under the party. What made you decide talaga na to run as an independent candidate?
I'm looking at the present political situation, the present political climate. And I'm coming in, when I decided even, I was coming in with the perspective or the view from somebody who is not a politician, from someone who is not a candidate. That's why I have ascribed to myself now that I am an amateur in this field. So nung ako nag-decide, makikita ko kasi ako yung isa ako sa inyo.
Tama.
Pagod na ang tao sa politika, pagod na ang tao sa nakawan sa gobyerno, at pagod na ang tao sa mga self-invested interest of the politicians out there. At higit sa lahat, pagod na ang tao sa korupsyon. At sabi ko siguro, talagang marapat na ang gawin kong partido ay ang Republika ng Pilipinas at ang aking mga aliado at party mates at kapartido ay ang sambayan ng Pilipinas.
But you also said no, during the media interaction doon sa filing mo ng COC that you are also open no, to being adopted as a guest candidate no, sa mga
Agree.
partido.
Provided pareho kami ng prinsipyo.
Okay.
Provided pareho kami ng pinaninindigan.
Klaro.
At provided we are like-minded, kagaya ng ating mga nakakasama sa hakbang ng maisog.
Tama. So, going back to party politics and everything, no, alam naman natin na talagang may bintaha yung may partido. Yung ano nila, yung makinarya, no? Yung kanilang structure, andyan na yan eh. Do you think na talagang it will be a very uphill climb for you or for your campaign, having been, if you don't mind, the chief mechanic and the chief designer of the Marcos campaign in 2022?
Mabigat talaga itong laban ko. Unang-una, ako ay, kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina, ako ay amateur dito sa larangan ng midterm election darating, lalo pa bilang aplikante po ninyo bilang senador. Alam ko na it's not only uphill. When I was going around the country and I'm going around the other parts of the world meeting with our Filipino migrants and overseas Filipino workers, sinabi ko sa kanila, I think yung uphill fight is an understatement. I have described this on the night that I made a decision that I said, I know when we go into this electoral process, when we go into this electoral exercise, me being your candidate for senator, this is going to be brutal fight for me. This is going to be a brutal fight for all like-minded Filipinos. But I still I took up the challenge, and here I am, making myself, introducing myself to the Filipino people. At sinabi ko nga iyan, na opisyal at formal na ho akong aplikante ninyo sa pagkasenador.
Okay, and going back then again no, to maisog, no? A lot of people are confused kung ano ba yung maisog at saka yung TAPS, no? Yung TAPS coalition. Is it a party? Is it, as you said, no, a social movement? Ano ba talaga sila? Sino-sino ba talaga sila? At bakit sila yung napagdesisyonan mo na makipag-alyansa no? or dadalhin mo yung boses ng TAPS maisog na grupo? Which is, if you don't mind a little bit, which is, sabi nga nila, ay brainchild no? Ni former President Rodrigo Duterte at yung kanyang right-hand man, for lack of a better term, na si former Secretary to the Cabinet, Judy Basco.
Okay, let me first begin with PRRD, Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Si Pangulong Duterte cannot be denied.
Yes.
He is the inspiration, the moving spirit behind Hakbang ng Maisog. Hakbang ng Maisog is the social movement. At yung TAPSO, yan yung core principles or values of Hakbang ng Maisog. A social movement that calls for transparency, accountability, peace, and security in government, that calls for transparency, accountability, peace, and security in governance. And yes, Manong Jun Ibasco, former Cabinet Secretary Jun Ibasco, is very much behind Hakbang ng Maisog. And we are not denying it because kami naman ay nagsama-sama because we are like-minded individuals. And I do not know if you may recall, EB at ating mga kababayan, nagsimula po yung Hakbang ng Maisog when we were pushing back dito sa paglalapastangan ng mga tao sa Kongreso na yurakan, bastusin at napastakanin ang ating saligang batas dahil pinipilit nila itong huwad na People's Initiative at Peking Charter Change.
Right.
Na sinasabi nila economic provisions lamang ang gagalawin para daw yumaman na ang Pilipinas at umunlad ang buhay ng mga Pilipino. Nagsama-sama kami ni Pangulong Duterte dahil nga alam naman natin na ito isang huwad na proseso, yung People's Initiative, ginagamit nilang pambili ng pirma, yung mga ayuda, at hindi rin naman totoo na pag ginalaw yung economic provisions ng ating saligang batas ay yayaman ng Pilipinas. I'll just take this opportunity. Because ito yung matagal ng kasinungalingang ibinibenta ang napakaraming politiko.
Right.
Ang Pilipinas po ay hindi mahirap. Ang Pilipinas po ay napakayamang bansa. Ang mahirap po rito ay yung mga Pilipino dahil sa pagsasamantala ng mga politiko. Let me be very clear about it. Mayaman ang Pilipinas. Ang diferensya natin, yung mga nagpapatakbo ng Pilipinas, yung mga politiko, yung korupsyon.
And that is why your campaign battle cry now is good governance, no? Which is a very encompassing phrase, no? Kasi marami dyan, and we will expound on that later in the interview. But again, no, having been associated with the former President Rodrigo Duterte and the former Cabsec Jun Ibasco, lumalabas na rin yung mga chismis-chismis at mga kontrobersya no, na ito daw maisog ay ginagawang political platform nitong isang Atty. Vic Rodriguez at kasabot niya itong si Cabsec Jun Ibasco. Once and for all, Atty. Vic, no? Would you kindly address that issue na medyo inaano na rin, no? Sa mga ilang quarters, no? Sa ating political discussions sa Pilipinas.
Let me address that. Nang walang anuman humbahin ng pagiging ipokrito o hypocrisy. Ang Hakbang ng Maisog is a social movement. And yes, you can say what you want, it's a political platform, right? When you talk about government, when you talk about governance, when you talk about corruption, that is political. Pero ang sinasabi nila na ginagamit na political platform, far from it. Pag pinag-usapan mo gobyerno, pinag-usapan mo yung struktura nito, pinag-usapan mo ang saligang batas, that is already political. Pero hindi ito ibinuo precisely to take part in this midterm election. Far from it. Other parties are there. May partidong sarili, si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Subalit, ito nga, yung Hakbang ng Maisog, samahan ito ng mga hindi politiko eh. Ito ay social movement na uulitin ko, naniningil sa Bongbong Marcos administration for transparency, accountability, peace, and security.
So, ibig sabihin, in short, no, ipinanganak yung Maisog at kinanlong ni Atty. Vic Rodriguez dahil you believe in what they are fighting for.
Yes.
And eventually, dahil ng Maisog, na yung TAPS Coalition at yung advocacy ng Maisog, ipinanganak ulit ang isang Atty. Vic Rodriguez bilang kandidato sa Senado.
Yun na naging sequence of events.
Klaro ha?
Naging sequence of events. Dahil tatandaan ho ninyo mga kababayan, nung yung tangka nilang paglalapastangan sa ating saligang batas, uminit lang yan December 2023. 2023 nung pinipilit nila na baguhin yung ating saligang batas. And the pushback, they felt it. Nung lumabas nga yung hakbang ng mga issue ng January sa Davao, kung matatandaan ninyo. At nagsunod-sunod din yung maraming paglalapastangan ng administrasyon ni Bongbong Marcos sa ating saligang batas. Nariyan na rin yung pag-aabuso sa ayuda, yung pagtatago ng mga 800 billion pesos ang program appropriation, at yung nawawala at hindi ma-account na 500 billion pesos for 2 years, just 2 years, na flood control funds na di umano'y pinuhos sa 5,500 flood control programs na tuwing umuulan. Ulan lang, wala pang bagyo. Lalo pa kung may bagyo at sa bahan ni Habagat, talagang baha ang malaking bahagi ng ating bansa. Hindi lang o Metro Manila, alam ko dito sa Sigurin. Sa Mindanao, ganun din. Lalo pa sa Luzon.
Attorney, along that line, no? how do you value, no, yung endorsement ng mga Duterte sa iyong kandidatura, no? I was fortunate enough nung bumisita kayo sa Davao, you had a meeting with Mayor Basti Duterte. At doon nga, no, sinabi niya na in his personal capacity, not as a PDP party member, ay all out ang suporta niya sa iyo. At inangat niya yung kamay mo doon. Kasi nga, ang sabi ni Baste, align kayo ng pinaglalaban. At pangalawa, at it struck a chord, no, doon sa mga nakikinig doon, na ang sabi ni Baste, no, sa iyo, na because you were there since day one of yung pinaglalaban ng isu. And then, it so happened na inendorso pa na rin ng Maisog Core Group. At yung panghuli naman is the endorsement on his personal capacity of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Now, how do you value this? No? Ano bang relevance nito, or gaano ba kaimportante itong tatak ng Duterte na ngayon ay to be very honest, nakadikit talaga sa isang Atty. Rodriguez at saka kampanya mo sa Senado?
Unang-una, yung aking pagbisita at pakikipag-usap kay Mayor Baste Duterte, malinaw yan. I think Mayor Baste will be able to validate me on this. Sinabi ko sa kanya noon, Mayor, wala pa talaga akong desisyon. Kaya lang hinarap kita dahil kung sakasakali, wala naman ako ibang tatakbuhan para hingan ng tulong, kundi yung mga like-minded individuals like him na nakasama ko na sa pag-so. Kaya nung itinaas niya yung kamay ko noon, after noon, natawa siya, ako rin natawa. Then sabi ko, ito lang yata ang itinataas ang kamay, pero wala pang desisyon. But he knows. But I value the endorsements of President Duterte and Mayor Baste Duterte, because whether we are a fan of the Dutertes or not, they are a potent and very, very strong political force, political name, and political brand. Why? Mahal po sila ng Pilipino.
Tama.
Dahil naglingkod po sila ng tama nung panunungkulan ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Huwag na natin sabihin mahal sila ng mga taga-Davao. I think, hindi, alam na ng buong mundo yun. Kaya nga from Mayor of Davao City, ginawa nating Pangulo, si Rodrigo Roa Duterte, dahil meron siyang resibo ba na ipapakita niya. Exhibit A yung Davao. Hanggang ngayon, mahal na mahal siya ng mga taga-Davao. Yung buong pamilyang Duterte. And I guess Exhibit B, if I may say, is the overwhelming votes. 32 million Filipinos supported Vice President Inday Sara Duterte, who elected her in a lawful, constitutional, legal, and democratic manner. So talagang nandyan ang pwersa ng Duterte.
Yes, no? And marami talaga ang nag-acknowledge niya, no? At talagang medyo marami din na supporters ng mga Duterte.
And ang maganda kasi doon talaga, hindi dahil strong political family or strong political name or strong political force lang sila. Hindi. Talagang pareho kami ng pananaw kung paano, saan dapat dalhin ang ating bansa. Nagtutugma rin doon sa pananaw when it comes to how we should relate with our neighbors and how we should handle our relationship with foreign superpowers. So, parehong direksyon eh.
Pero if you remember din, attorney, no, doon sa meeting natin with, or meeting niyo with Basti Duterte, nabanggit ko rin na yung upcoming elections will probably be branded as a Marcos versus Duterte election. And we were discussing that we should be issue-driven, talagang issues tayo. No? Pero apparently, there was a survey, no? I think that was released sometime in August 28 to September 2, tugon ng masa survey of Octa Research, no? At ang sabi nga doon, no, parang itong survey na to is pitting the Marcos and the Dutertes, no? Kasi ang headline nun is pro-Marcos supporters and pro-Duterte supporters. No, I would just not mention the numbers, pero ang importante kasi sa akin yung naratibo na kinatatakutan ko nang nag-discuss tayo while we were in Davao ay talaga nangyari na. And apparently, maraming mga tao din at marami ding mga supporters on both sides of the fence ang talagang gustong dalhin ito na debate sa dalawang magkatunggaling pamilya na, no, the Tigers of the North daw at saka yung the Eagles of the South, no, the Imperial Manila versus the subservient Visaya Mindanao, no? Where do you think this narrative and this discourse of apparently tribal and regional politics affect, no, or seep through dun sa kampanya mo over the next few months?
Unang-una, I beg to strongly disagree with the direction of that survey. Maling-mali. Ang sinasabi nila, yung naratibo nila ay Duterte versus Marcos. The president now is Bongbong Marcos.
Right.
And you still keep on talking about President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Yes.
Take a look at the headlines of all the traditional newspapers. Walang kinikwento kung anong ginawa ng Pangulo. It's all about President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Kapag nagpasa ka ng dyaryo ngayon, ang pakiramdam mo, ang magiging impression mo, Pangulo pa rin. Si Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. So mali yung naratibong yun. Mali yung comparison. Mali yung analysis. And kagaya na nasabi ko sa isang panayam na aking ginawa, EB, kahit hindi naman mangyayari ito. But just a figure of speech and to stress yung paniniwala at respeto ko kay Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, kahit ako na lang ang nasa tabi o maiwang mag-isa sa tabi ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, hindi magbabago ang aking paggalang, pagtingin at respeto kay Pangulong Duterte. So yung sinasurvey nila na bumaba ng 1 percentage point, immaterial, irrelevant, wala hong meaning yan. Ang dapat ninyong i-survey, ano na, ang nagawa kung meron man ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. You have to make a survey beating them against their performance, not against a previous performing and well-loved president. Talo kayo dyan at mali ang analysis nila niya.
Next that I would like to ask you, Attorney Vic, is have you watched the latest press con of VP Sara?
Bits and pieces.
Bits and pieces. No?
Bits and
But
pieces.
before we go to that press con, pick your brain, kasi it was a very loaded press con. Ano ba yung relasyon mo with VP Sara or then candidate Sara Duterte during the 2022 presidential campaign? At ano na yung relasyon mo ngayon bilang isang Attorney Vic Rodriguez na isang ordinaryong Pilipinong mamamayan at siya naman ay Vice Presidente na ng ating bayan. Ano ba yung mga dynamics mo?
Back in the day, during the campaign, okay naman, very professional yung aming naging relasyon ni then Mayor Inday Sara Duterte. At siya naman very, very cooperative, if not submissive, pag nagbabangga yung schedule na ini-request ng grupo ng kandidato para Vice Presidente versus si kandidato ng pagkapangulo, she gladly hears. At sinasabi niya, sige, unahin niya. Except if she finds it really, really close to her heart and really, really very important. Kung nanalo na nga, nagkikita kami pag cabinet meeting, very professional. At ngayon, hindi kami nakakapag-usap. ni Vice President, Pangulo na tuloy, ni pangalawang Pangulo nga Inday Sara Duterte, hindi kami
Magdilang anghel ka sana.
At I issue statements from time to time. At akala ng iba nakakapag-usap kami ni pangalawang Pangulo Inday Sara Duterte. Hindi ako. Dahil nakikita ko yung direksyon na ginagawa sa kanya. Yung kanyang yung panggigipit sa kanya, pangsisikil, paninira. Alam mo ninyo mga kababayan, when I issue statement in support of the office of the Vice President, si Vice President Inday Sara Duterte is just a symbol or symbolism of the 32 million Filipinos who again voted for her truthfully, lawfully, legally, constitutionally, and democratically as our Vice President. Yun ho yung ating dapat pagtanggol. Yung Office of the Vice President at yung 32 million Filipinos na nasa likod nung kumakatawan doon sa 32 million Filipinos. Kaya yung ginagawa ng mga mambabatas na pilit tanggalin si Vice President Inday Sara Duterte, labanan po natin yan. Hindi ho dahil pro-Inday kayo o pro-Duterte kayo. Kung hindi, dinalapastangan po nila ang mandato ng 32 million Filipinos na bumoto at tumangkilik kay Vice President Inday Sara Duterte. Kung kaya ho nilang gawin yan sa 32 million Filipinos, paano pa kayo? Paano pa tayo?
I ask you that, Attorney Vic, no? Kasi during the press con nga, no? Inday Sara revealed, no, na nilapitan niya siya raw itong magkapatid na Marcos, Senator Amy at si Bongbong. Kasi gusto nga raw siyang patakuhin bilang katandem ni Bongbong Marcos bilang vice-presidente niya. Kasi nga, ayon daw sa survey nila, I don't know if you were part of that, ay matatalo talaga sila ni Lenny nung panahon na yon kung hindi makukuha yung Bisaya votes. This is irrelevant to the upcoming elections, pero I just need some validation or some, anecdotal statements from you. At sinabi nga niya, nung pinag-survey niya, sabi kasi ni Inday Sara doon na isurvey niyo, na ako yung katandem niya, si VP Sara, at tingnan ko yung numero. And she said na they did a quick and dirty survey and it came out na talagang maganda yung mga numero pagkasama si Inday Sara, no, na nakatandem niya. No, may dalawang questions to. No? Meron bang survey na nakita kayo, yung team niyo, na talagang dehado si DPM kay Lenny, nawala si Inday Sara? At meron bang survey na yung pinakita nga nila na talagang malaki talaga daw yung margin of error? Kasi sabi ni Inday Sara, nandun ka raw eh.
I have no reason to doubt the statement given by Vice President Inday Sara Duterte during her press conference. But as to the other details, I think it will be most unfair for me if I will be the one to do the explaining for the Marcoses. Let them refute if they want to. Let them respond if they want to. But I'm out of it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. No? Now, ito yung mga statements ni Inday, no, during the press con. They were very, no? Although they were hyperbole, no, of some sort, they were very insulting for some people, no? And in fact, yung pinaka-insulting statement daw doon, no, is yung sinabi nga ni Inday na pag hindi daw siya tinatantanan ng mga Marcoses atake sa kanya, ihuhukayin niya daw yung katawan ng Marcos Sr. doon sa libingan ng mga bayani at tapon daw niya sa West Philippine Sea. Of course, I don't, Inday, this is a release na talagang yan, literal ang meaning nun. But it was a statement of, anong tawag nito, it was a statement of frustration, no? Kumbaga, no? What's your take on that, no? On the basis of the very few times na magkasama kayong Inday, no?
Alam mo, yung mga batikos na lumalabas sa laban kay Vice President Inday Sara Duterte right after yung kanyang statement ng mga binitawan sa kanyang press conference, ito'y political noise na lang ibig dahil meant to further debase, disparage, and discredit Vice President Inday Sara Duterte. Pero doon sa higit na nakakarami, na nakakaunawa, figure of speech lang po iyon to give stress and emphasis na kung gaano yung kanyang galit sa ginagawa maraming kamalian ng administrasyon ni Bongbong Marcos. At ipinapakita lamang niya na handa siyang tumindig para sa higit na nakararaming Pilipino. At handa siyang ipaglaban hindi yung kanyang sarili, hindi yung kanyang posisyon bilang Vice President, kung hindi, uulitin ko, we need to protect the 32 million Filipinos who voted Inday Sara to be our Vice President. Si Inday Sara is just emblematic or symbolism of the office of the Vice President. Ang higit na mahalaga na dapat natin protektahan kayo, tayo, dahil minalapastangan tayo ng ilang mga mambabatas para lang isolo yung kanilang layunin na mapanatili ang kanilang sarili at yung mga patron nila beyond their term of office. Na yun lang naman ang kasunduan mo, yung social contract with the Filipino people. They were elected for a period of 6 years. Hanggang doon ka lang. Huwag kang lalagpas doon. At huwag mong aakayin ang buong bansa sa bingit o sa dulo ng bangin at isasadsad mo kami kasama mo para lamang mapanatili ang inyong pamilya, the Marcos, the Romualdez, and the Marcos in their respective position. Kunin ko na rin itong pagkakataon ito, Ibi. That's why I feel strongly about this midterm election because I know, I personally know, and I have a feeling, yung mga kababayan natin, alam ko rin na alam ninyo what is at stake for the country this coming midterm election. If we're not going to resist this ongoing tyranny, if we are not going to resist this undeclared martial law, if we are not going to resist this dictatorship that is happening right in our very own midst, ang immediate po nilang gagawin pag hindi natin sila pinigilan, tatanggalin nila, i-impeach nila si Vice President Sara Duterte. Hindi, again, I do not have the authority to speak on behalf of Inday Sara. I am not even her lawyer, but I speak as a Filipino. I speak as a lawyer, and I speak as an officer of the court. Huwag po tayong pumayag dahil uulitin ko si Vice President Inday Sara, siya lamang ang sumisimbolo sa posisyon ng pagiging pangalawang Pangulo. But ultimately, ang lalapastanganin nila ay ang ating saligang batas at ang mandato ng 32 million Filipinos who voted her legally, constitutionally, lawfully, and democratically as our Vice President. That is for the immediate term. For the midterm, we will witness, God forbid, a transitioning of the form of government from presidential to parliamentary para lamang mapanatili ang kanilang angkan sa posisyon at sa poder. And in the long term, kawawa po ang mga kabataang Pilipino at ang mga kabataang Pilipinong darating pa sa mundong ito dahil uubusin po nila ang pera nating mga Pilipino. Yan ang nakataya ngayong darating na midterm election. Dapat maunawaan ninyo ito, dapat magsama-sama tayo, dapat natin silang labanan, tayo ay hindi dapat sumang-ayon.
I have 3 more points, no, Attorney, no, before we go to the core of your campaign battle cry, which is good governance nga, no? But ito, I think, no, very important din kasi sa diskusyon na to, yung apparently congressional overreach na, no? Instead of oversight, no, yung mga nangyayaring hearing ngayon sa Quad Committee, yung kay Senator Risa Ontiveros na almost 7 months na, no, it's an apparent witch hunt na wala talagang ibang layunin kundi to destroy the Duterte legacy and Duterte brand of governance. Yun na nga, no, siguro din para yung mga kandidato for senators during the midterm elections, no, will be put in a bad light, no, hoping na ma-erode yung kanilang popularity and hopefully gain enough vote, no, for the Marcos administration. Now, I read an article, no, kanina, kababago lang to, no, and we witnessed, no, kung paano tinatrato yung mga witnesses and resource persons, no, at parang they are already acting as judge, jury, and executioner, no. Parang hindi na nga ito overreach, parang lahat ng branches ng government nasa congressional committee na, no, acting as if they own the collective interest of the Filipino people. Now, there was an article that ito palang yung president pala of Quezon City Trial Lawyers League, no?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a group of law practitioner based essentially in Quezon City.
And as I've said, no, at nabasa ko ngayon na you issued a statement na you were reminding the witnesses and the resource persons of their inherent constitutional rights as witnesses or resource persons.
Yes.
Doon sa mga hearing na yun. No?
Yes.
I'm asking you now, as the president of that Lawyers Association, meron ba kayong any other besides issuing that statement or that yung sort of emotional support sa kanila, meron ba kayong concrete na gagawain o gagawin pa, maybe legal aid or whatever? And second to that is meron ba ring mga similar organizations of lawyers across the country na nagpalabas ng ganung sentimento?
No, well, sadly, ang pagkakaalam ko ay yung Quezon City Trial Lawyers League. Malamang ang nag-issue ng ganitong pahayag na nananawagan essentially sa lahat, sa mga mapapatawag at itinatawag at yung magpapatawag sa mga congressional inquiries na respetuhin yung karapatang pantao, especially yung nakasulat naman lahat yan sa ating saligang batas, Article 3 lahat ito. Yung right against self-incrimination. At hindi ho natin itinatanggi na inherent sa Kongreso na magsagawa ng mga legislative inquiries. Subalit malinaw rin doon. Dapat yung legislative inquiries na yan ay patungo doon sa purpose, the purpose of calling for an investigation, which is to come up with a legislation. But not to determine sino ang guilty, anong degree ng pagkakasala ng inaakusahan, sino-sino ang dapat nating bitbitin at panagutin sa korte, at higit sa lahat, hindi ninyo trabaho na ikunin yung mga powers that are reserved for prosecutorial bodies and trial agencies. Hindi ninyo trabaho yan. Dapat yan investigation in aid of legislation. But mali kasi nakikita ng mahigit na marami ng Pilipino na pagka hindi nagustuhan yung sagot, iwawagayway agad sa'yo na gusto mo i-contempt kita. Malinaw kasi sa amin yan when we sat down, yung Quezon City Trial Lawyers Group, nagpalitan ng puro-puro opinion. At unang-unang lumutang dyan yung Article 3, Section 1, that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. At nabanggit din dyan yung Article 3, Section 12, Paragraph 2, na yung nagkakaroon ng vitiated consent o hindi na free will dahil nandyan yung wala pang force, violence, or torture. Subalit masasabi natin na merong threat at merong intimidation. Ano yung intimidation? Patatawag ka, tatakutin ka, iko-contempt ka, dito ka matutulog sa correctional o kaya sa kung ano man jail. You will end up with having a vitiated consent. And finally, yung Article 3, Section 17, yung right against self-incrimination. Pag pinatawag ka muna bilang resource person, ay dahan-dahan, nagde-develop na, para ka na, papunta na sa nagiging akusado na. Magkahiwalay yun. Pagka ikay nagpunta roon, mere invitation, at ikaw ay resource person, pwede mong tanggapin, pwede mong hindi tanggapin. Pero dapat paalala lang sa ating mga mambabatas, pag tinanggap nung inimbitahan mo as resource person, dapat kayo magpasalamat tayo and appreciate them for respecting your invitation and he or she is there to provide yung kanyang input na sa tingin ninyo yung valuable. Subalit kung pagdating doon, dahan-dahan nagta-transition na nagiging akusado na siya, hindi nyo rin pwedeng impigilan na i-invoke niya yung kanyang right against self-incrimination because no person can be compelled to testify or be a witness against himself. Kung sa tingin mo itong investigasyon na gaganap, we will be referred to the DOJ, limbawa, o sa ombudsman at nakakasuhan ka, zipper mo na bibig mo.
Exactly.
Dahil lahat ng sasabihin mo rin gagamitin laban sa iyo. Why are they taking it against somebody who invoked rightfully yung kanyang karapatang manahimik at against self-incrimination? Yun yung ating pinananawagan dahil sabi ko nga, ang Kongreso, bagamat may karapatan kayong mag-investiga, but it should be for the purpose of your primary mandate, legislation. But it is not your business to arrogate upon yourself yung power to prosecute, power to determine sino yung mga dapat idemanda at
Tama.
gawin sa korte,
Oo.
at higit sa lahat, wala kayong kapangyarihan humusga o gawin ang trabaho ng isang trial agency o trial body.
Klaro yan mga kapatid, from a lawyer speaking, no, about the rights of individuals na involved dyan at pinapatawag din sa mga hearings na yan. No? And this issue is very close to my heart, no, attorney, no, about foreign policy. No? And I was happy nung sinabi ni Inday Sara na wag daw muna siyang tanungin about foreign policy kasi sa next niya na press con, she will issue a statement probably, no? At yun, pinaka-hintay ko na. Because for the longest time, wala siyang statement pa, no? Now, ito, attorney, if given the chance or given the mandate na, mapunta ka sa Senado, I'll have to mention this, no? Yung promise ng EDCA, na pagka may EDCA raw, at yun nga, no, binigyan pa nga ni BBM nung nakaupo na siya ng additional 4 EDCA sites. At isa na nga dito ay yung Mactan Benito Inqued Air Force Base. Nakatabi lang ng Mactan Airport.
Yes,
may EDCA site dyan. No? Apparently, hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin natin na-feel yung promise ng mga Amerikano na pagbibigay ng tulong sa Pilipinas. And in fact, kung titingnan mo, ang nangyayari ngayon, no? Dahil nga, inaway ni Marcos ang China, dahil nga sa udyok ng mga Amerikano, inaway na rin niya yung Russia nung pinapunta niya dito si Zelensky at nung pinayagan niya na maglagay dito ang mga Amerikano ng mga nuclear warhead-capable Typhoon weapon systems. At technically, kalaban na rin natin yung North Korea dahil kaalyado siya ng Russia. At nag-issue na rin sila ng threat dun sa ongoing NATO expansion sa Indo-Pacific. Now, ito pa ang nakakabahala. Kasi, nung the last ASEAN Summit, dun sa Lao PDR, para bang nagmaktol si BBM doon, no? It was a statement, I think, truly uncalled for a president. Sabi niya, dapat daw yung the rest of the ASEAN should not turn a blind eye because and then it was followed by a statement from, I think it was Cariela or Gibo, na tayo lang daw ang Pilipinas is standing up against the bully, which is China. Pero ang nangyayari, hanggang ngayon wala pa rin isang investor na Amerikano na pupunta dito. But yung mga kapatid natin sa ASEAN, between April and until now, almost 18 billion worth of pledged, no, investments, no, from Microsoft to Google to Amazon to Apple to yung mga malalaking tech industries, no, at yung destination no na to Olympic ay ano lang, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, at Thailand and Singapore. So ano sa tingin mo, Attorney Vic, no, given the mandate or given the chance na maupo ka nga sa Senado, no, ano ba yung una mong gustong gawin patungkol sa ating panglabas na relasyon, lalo na dito sa ating mga kapitbahay sa ASEAN?
Okay, kung ako ho ay pahiramin ninyo ng inyong mandato at ako'y magiging isang ganap na senador, gaya ng sinabi ko nung ako ay nag-file ang aking kandidatura at aplikasyon para maging senador ninyo, ako ay ang kakatawan sa tunay na posisyon. At precisely what is happening now. Kulag po ang sambayan ng Pilipino sa tunay na nangyayari, lalo pa dito sa tinatawag na foreign policy. Wala po tayong debate. Ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas, kung sino man ang maging Pangulo, siya ang pinunong arkitekto ng ating foreign policy. He or she will be the one to shape our foreign policy. But be that as it may, hindi ibig sabihin nun, meron kang free hand o unbridled license na kaladkarin mo ang buong Pilipino sa pingit ng digmaan laban sa ating higanting kapitbahay na China. Yung ganung outburst or statement sa ASEAN, up to him, let him explain why he even said that or he made such a statement. But ang nakikita ko rito, yung pag-pivot kasi natin na dapat kaibigan natin ang lahat at wala tayong kaaway at wala tayong pakikipag-away. Kung hindi, establish lang natin yung ating political and economic alliances with our neighbors. Hindi natin kinakailangan na establish ang palaksin ang ating military alliance with the West or the Americas specifically. Because with the presence of these EDCA bases, at ikaw na rin nagbanggit, with the presence of these nuclear capable missiles na nandito na sa ating bansa, the Bongbong Marcos administration effectively put us, all of us, in harm's way. Ngayon, nagbabantay na rin sa atin ang Russia. Hindi lang ang China. Nabanggit mo rin, na rin sa atin ng North Korea. Eh, ano naman sa international stage, kanya-kanyang alyansa at groupings yan. Yung sinasabing tayo lang ang tumitindig laban sa China, I don't think so. Meron silang mga sari-sariling laban. Pero, yung kanilang gobyerno, yung kanilang pamunuan at yung kanilang mga pangulo o leader, hindi sila kinakaray sa bingit ng digmaan. Na patuloy pa rin nakikipag-usap at alam mo, yun din naman ang gusto ng China eh. China will never submit to arbitration because you also have to understand ano yung comfort or convenience nila. They would always and they will always prefer bilateral talks, diplomacy, negosasyon, usap. Pero yung bringing in another superpower na kagaya ng Estados Unidos, maglalagay ka rito ng mga base, ang panlilin lang, ang pambubudol na ginawa ninyo at ginamit sa taong bayan, ang mga bases na ito ay for relief and humanitarian vision. Nakailang bagyo't baha na tayo. Meron ho ba kayong nakitang mga Amerikanong sundalo sa gitna ng mga baha?
Tama.
Meron ho ba kayong nakitang truck ng mga Amerikano at mga relief goods na dala ng Amerika? Ang dala nila ay balang pandigma, missile na pandigma, truck na pandigma, all their military hardware, nakaposisyon na. Dahil nga, pilit nilang inilulusad ang kanilang proxy war with China at tayo yung ginagamit na sangkalan. Huwag tayong dapat pumayag. Yan ang mali na direksyon ng Bongbong Marcos administration.
Now we're going into the heart of your campaign promise, no, good governance, no. At ilang beses ko rin narinig sa iyo, no, yung pag naupo ka sa Senado at you can muster enough support, you will bat for the scrapping or the pagpahinto nung liquidation by way of certification that is enabled by or was enabled by concurrent resolution number 10 which was approved in 2012 na yung mga liquidation ng mga MOOE ng mga kongresista at mga senador ay pwede lang sa simple certification nila, no? That's number one. At ako talagang marami kami na advocate. In fact, we formed a group na hindi po pera yan, MOOE.
Yes.
At paano ho yun, Atty. Vic, no? Just to explain to the people briefly, ano yung ibig sabihin po?
Yung aking sinabi nung akin nag-file ang aking kandidatura, samahan po ninyo ako dito sa ating war on corruption at ako magiging tinig ninyo bilang tunay na oposisyon tungo sa good governance. At sesentrohin natin yung ating budget. Dahil ako naniniwala, the alpha and the omega of all our problems, lahat ng kahirapan natin, yung ating taunang budget.
Agree.
Dahil kinukuha yung malaking porsyento niyan, mahigit 50% ay nauuwi lamang sa korupsyon at higit na korupsyon. Panipis ng panipis ang timbang at pangangatawan ng mga Pilipino habang pataba ng pataba ang bulsa at pang-account ng mga politiko. Kaya yung sinasabi natin ay if I can gather enough alliances, ibasura natin yung resolution number 10. Bakit? Imagine mo, resolution number 10. Nakapun niya yung constitutional mandate ng Commission on Audit. It cannot be a mere resolution, hindi mo pwedeng i-undermine the constitutional mandate of the Commission on Audit.
Tama.
Ang trabaho ng Commission on Audit, yan ang watchdog
Tama.
ng pera nating mga Pilipino.
Tama.
Pero sa single legislative fiat, resolution number 10, wala nang magawa ang COA. That piece of resolution or legislative fiat is unconstitutional. Why? Simple naman, ang daming desisyon na ng Korte Suprema sa iba't ibang kaso. The spring cannot rise above the source. That resolution number 10
Yes.
cannot be bigger, higher, and more powerful than the constitutional mandate of the Commission on Audit.
Which brings us to another analogy of that the spring cannot be
Rise
higher
above the source.
at the source. Itong congressional insertions at itong mga pork barrel-like, no, na mga provision dyan sa, alimbawa na sa 2024 General Appropriations Act, no, na kung saan, if I'm not mistaken, no, I'm not a lawyer attorney, na hindi pinapahintulutan ng ating konstitusyon, ng ating saligang batas, na iangat nung hinihinging budget ng executibo, no? Pero ang ginawa daw nila ngayon na sa Kongreso ay tinatapisan nila yung mga iba't ibang item doon sa NEP, no, yung National Expenditure Program, at nire-realign nila, no, sa iba't ibang mga items na sila as Congress people ang may say, no, ang may authority, no, for lack of a better word, na mag-decide kung saan iaalat. Secondly, yung unprogrammed funds na technically naman pwede, pero ito parang extravagant na yung amount na magsiset ka ng unprogrammed funds on the premise na hahanapan mo yan ng alternative sources. At ito na nga tayo, nangyayari na itong 90 billion transfer of PhilHealth funds, no, back to the national government, apparently to fund a portion of this unprogrammed funds, which I think you said could amount to about 1.2 trillion.
800 billion to 1.2 billion.
Yes.
But that's the thing.
Yes.
We lack transparency, so we cannot pinpoint with accuracy or near accuracy yung eksaktong amount na kanilang pinaglalaroan gamit ng unprogrammed appropriation o yung bagong anyo ng DAP or pork barrel funds.
So do you have any idea, kunti lang, na pag naupo ka, how to rewrite or revisit the budget process?
We have to guard yung ating taunang budget bago pa ito maging gaap. From the moment nagsumite ang Pangulo, ang Executive sa Kongreso, yung sa NEP, yung National Expenditure Program. Wala rin naman tayong pagtatalunan dito, Ibit, mga kababayan, that indeed, the Congress holds the power of the purse. Sa kanila magmumula lahat ng appropriation measures. Pero hindi mo pwedeng iangat yung panukala ng executive dahil sila mas nakakaalam kung ano yung kinakailangang pagtustos at gastusin. Sila rin na nakakaalam kung magkano yung koleksyon at sila rin na nakakaalam kung magkano utangin.
At mapunta na nga tayo dyan. The most insidious part of the budget process, yung bicameral conference committee.
The bicameral conference committee is not even in the constitutional loop of orderly passing a budget.
Right.
That is an illegal animal.
Yes.
Yung bicameral conference.
So, totoo ba yan, attorney? There is no transcript, no recordings of the conversation.
Paano? Doon sila nag-horse trading. Doon sila nag-horse trading. Hindi ho natin dapat payagan yan. Because as we speak, ang utang ng Pilipinas ngayon siguro ay higit kumulang 16 trillion pesos.
Yes, thereabouts.
Dahil as of end of July, nasa 15.69 trillion. Pero you have to bear in mind that 40% of that utang natin ay in dollar denomination.
Tama.
At pumalo na naman na 57.80
Yes.
dollar no Friday, hindi ko alam kung magkano magsasara ngayon. So definitely, yung 15.69 trillion, nasa 16 trillion na yan.
Tama.
At yung 16 trillion na yan, mga kababayan, pati yung batang ngayon, kasalukuyan habang ako ay nandito sa programa, amateur pundit, yung inyong amateur na kandidato ay naririto at may pinapanganak na bata, meron po tayo kada isang Pilipinong pagkakautang na 139,000 pesos more or less. Babayaran natin ito. Again, ang problema ng Pilipinas at ng bawat Pilipino, ang punot dulo, the alpha and the omega is the budget. That is why yung buong budget process dapat nating pantayan. Kung paano yung sinumite, kung ano yung ginagawa sa legislatura, at pag ito'y nalimpag natin sa batas at napirmahan ng Pangulo, bantayan din natin yung paggamit nito. Ito ba'y nagagamit ng tama o ito ay underutilized? Sino mananagot? Sino yung sobrang gumastos? Sino naman yung underperforming at hindi ginagastos yung pera, hindi dahil kailangan gastusin for the sake of gastusin, kundi maraming benepisyaryo mamamayang Pilipino ang nakaantay diyan sa tulong ng gobyerno.
Attorney, I still so much things to ask you, but yes, shall we?
Sure, I think we can.
Okay, but yun na nga, no? Again, no, going back to the improper or the misuse, no, of public funds, we have the issue of the Maharlika investment funds na hanggang ngayon, almost or more than a year na, nung nag-transfer yung DBP ng 25 billion at saka yung Land Bank of the Philippines ng 50 billion as seed capital dun sa sovereign wealth fund natin, hanggang ngayon, wala pa rin silang ni isang konkretong report na maisasabi na it's working. At minadali yun, it was an urgent bill.
Yes.
I read somewhere na yung pera na yun nakatenga sa National Treasury at it has already earned in interest about 1.5 billion for Maharlika Investment Fund or the MIC, the vehicle.
1.5 billion pesos.
Oh, yung interest earnings, no? Pero ang problema nga, if that money was not yet remitted to the fund, no? Ang makikinabang nun ay yung mga depositors ng DBP at ng Land Bank. So technically, kasi pera na yun ng MIC, Maharlika Investment Corporation, yung interest na yun na earned by depositing into the National Treasury, na 1.5 billion, technically nasa kanila yun at wala na yun. Second, is yung GSIS, no? Very few people is talking about how GSIS is being managed, no? And apparently, yung bagong halal or bagong appoint ni Marcos noon last year, nag-invest siya ng about 1.46 billion ng mga shares of stocks doon sa Nickel Asia. And because of the downtrend, no, of the nickel prices globally, yung shares of stock ng Nickel Asia ay bumaba ng almost 50%. Ibig sabihin, yung investment na yun ng GSIS sa Nickel Asia shares is now incurring a paper loss of around 602 million. At this is not a joke because yung GSIS talaga, for most of our retirees na galing sa serbisyo sa gobyerno,
Nakaasa dyan.
nakaasa dyan. Yan lang kanilang lifeline. In fact, yung mga pamilya nila, yan din yung lifeline. Yan sila nag-ano, to the twilight of the years. At I hope na pag nahalal ka,
Dapat silipin yun. Alam mo,
silipin
yung Maharlika Investment Fund, mga kababayan, ako'y talagang tutol dyan from the beginning. Dahil ang sinasabi nila ay yung Maharlika Investment Fund daw, yung pera dyan ay gagamitin to generate wealth. Yan po ay again malaking pambubudol. Bakit? Before you can talk about generating wealth, kinakailangan muna or perpetuating our wealth, kinakailangan muna you generate wealth. Wala na tayong pera eh. Kung may pera tayo, bakit 16 trillion ang ating inutang?
Tama.
So parang masyadong ill-advise ang Bongbong Marcos administration na makapag-usap pa sila na magtayo ng isang sovereign wealth fund para daw paluguin ang ating yaman. Wala nga tayong pera. Gumawa muna tayo ng pera.
Right.
Bago ka makapag-usap ng perpetuation or generating more wealth. Wala ka ng pera eh. Yung sinasabing 50 billion contribution ng Land Bank. Hindi ko alam kung natuloy, but I believe natuloy ito.
Natuloy.
Nag-contribute yung Land Bank ng 15 billion and several months thereafter, naglabas ang Land Bank ng kanilang press release na they are going to offer funds in the amount of 50 billion pesos. So makikita mo rito, linoloko tayo. Isinorender mo yung 50 billion pesos ng Land Bank, tapos mangungutang ka ng 50 billion pesos sa sambayan ng Pilipino o kung kanino man para pantakip doon sa binigay para sa Maharlika Investment Fund. At saka, that is not judicious and prudent fiscal management.
That's the word I'm looking for, no? Because 2 months after the remittance, no, of the 75 billion, the mismong Central Bank of the Philippines flagged the LBP and the DBP
Mm.
because of their capital adequacy ratio.
Bawal.
When bumaba
Oo.
yung kanilang capital
You have
adequacy
to
ratio,
maintain
you have
that.
to maintain that. So ang ginawa nga nila, either kinuna nila yung loan portfolio, hindi sila nag-loan, tinaasa nila yung interest rates at saka fees, at nag-issue na sila ng bonds to cover up your shortfall in capital.
Agree.
No, and secondly, attorney, no, again yung pag-ibig, no, I've heard stories na talagang napakahirap na daw ngayon na mag-avail ng mga loans, no, whereas during the time of the previous admin, even our police officers, sabi nila, it's very tough to get a multi-purpose loan. At they are worried na nga daw, no, what's the status of the ano na. But beyond that, attorney, no, at napakarami talaga, no, the GOCCs talagang titingnan. No? One very important issue din na hindi ko pa narinig sa'yo, hindi siguro na tanong sa'yo, yung issue ng Pogo versus Pigo. No? Whereas Pogo, yung mga bettors niya ay based overseas, hindi nakapagsugal yung mga Pilipino. Yung Pigo ngayon, or Philippine Inland Gaming Operators / Internet Gaming Licenses, no? Ay siya na ngayong nag-proliferate, attorney, no? At hindi na natin namamalayan na nagiging addict na pala yung ating mga kababayan sa pagsusugal dyan sa cellphone nila. At nakikita yan sa mga billboards, no? Dyan sa EDSA, naglalaki ang billboard. At lahat na ng mga apps ngayon, pinupush, even GCash, even Paymaya, even Lazada, even Shopee, no, pinupush talaga yung online casino. At ako'y naniniwala naman na we have to balance, no, our revenue targets as against the social cost. Kasi, di ba, yung Pogo, ang social cost niyan, yung sa empleyado lang na nandito. Kasi yung biktima niyan na debtors nasa labas, no. Again, I'm still against it, no. Pero itong nakakabahala, kasi 115 million Filipinos, including minors, are the target bettors of this rejuvenated online casino industry now, na apparently yung mga oligarko na nag-ooperate tulad ni na Rason, ng mga ni na Yossi Tanco, ni na Benitez, no, at kung sino-sino pa dyan, na gustong pagkakitaan ang desire ng mga Pilipino na manalo. What's your take on this, attorney?
Ako, Ibi, baka magulat yung ating mga kababayan. I'm not totally against yung online gaming. We have to tanggalin natin ang hypocrisy sa ating mga kababayan. With the advancement in technology, it has greatly changed the landscape of online casino. At yun na nga, nagbabago. Meron ng virtual reality, meron pa yung isa, yung augmented reality, na pagka naglaro ka online, akala mo tailor-made pa kung anong laro gusto mo. In the comfort of your home, your bedroom, your sala, your living room, kahit nga bathroom o toilet mo, nandyan na. So I think we just have to harness technology as well. Dahil nandyan na yan eh. Hindi ka mananalo sa everyday, may bagong nangyayari sa smartphones, sa tablets, sa laptops. That's different technology. And I think, ang pwede natin gawin, kung tayo papalarin, let's look at
more regulation.
Senado naman yan on the legislative side. Let's pass a legislation to try to protect and limit the losses of the players and protect yung pagpapakalat ng fraud,
Yun
ensure and maximize collection for government revenue. Ano ibig ko sabihin? Isang idea siguro yan. Nandiyan naman yung technology na, may AI na. Mahigpitan natin yung KYC. Baguhin natin. Ang PAGCOR kasi ngayon, sinasabi nila, responsible gaming.
Yes.
But in truth, ang ibig sabihin ng PAGCOR, responsible gambling.
Tama.
Ang sinasabi ng tawag ngayon dito
e-gaming,
online gaming.
pero
but
casino
it's
pala.
online casino, online gambling.
Tama.
So pilitin natin, baguhin natin. Let's approach it with open eyes, with a wider perspective. Pilitin natin baguhin yung pananaw natin sa mga online gaming or online casino na yan, na instead na hardcore gambling, gawin natin leisure gaming through legislation. Anong ibig ko sabihin?
Sige po.
Halimbawa po, yung gamitin natin sa Metro Manila, ang minimum wage diyan Nung mga non-agricultural employees ay 645 yata, more or less. At yung mga nasa agricultural at services ay 608, pati doon sa mga retail with 15 or less employees or sa manufacturing with less than 10 employees. Kung magagawa natin dito using technology as well sa online gaming, maximum bet na maaari mong ipatalo sa isang araw, basta nakarehistro ka ha, kompleto yung KYC, know your client.
Yes.
Yung 645 or 608 pesos, hindi ka pwedeng matalo ng more than the minimum wage na kinikita ng isang empleyado para maging leisure gaming. Dahil yung gaming ho, yung gambling, yung sugal, it's risk-taking. And I think you will agree with me, Ibi, na sa ating buhay, sa ating pag-ibig, sa ating karera, sa ating araw-araw na gawain, tayo ay nagsusugal. Meaning we take risks. And kung ito naman ay calculated at kaya nating maglagay ng ceiling doon sa mga regular wage earners, para wala kang matatalo ng more than sa sinasahod mo. Ngayon sasabihin nila, paano naman yung mayaman? Kaya nga may KYC. Then let them submit supporting documents, yung income tax return mo, yung assets mo. Pwede ka namang lumapag doon sa privileged gamer na higit na mas malaki ang iyong pwedeng itaya at ipatalo. At magkakaroon din ng ng automatic system. Pag natalo ka na ng according to the maximum minimum wage mo, yun lang din ang pwede mong isugal, automatic magkakaroon ka ng cooling off period for the next 24 hours. Hindi ka pwedeng sumugal. Bakit? Yun eh. Uulitin ko. But itong ganitong panukala will only be successful kung walang korupsyon sa gobyerno.
And maybe also, attorney, part of the gaming revenues from the operators should also be funneled through a social fund na to address, let's say, gambling addiction issues, yung social cost na in terms of family dynamics, na medyo na sa sundal.
Kasi hindi ako naniniwala sa total ban eh.
Ako rin hindi.
Yung total ban, only the underground gaming.
Yes, kaya nga importante is to regulate.
So linobo mo pati gobyerno.
Tama.
Imbes na may pumapasok na pera sa gobyerno, nag-underground siya, ang kikita na lang yung mga mahilig sa tongpats. Yung mga mahilig sa lagay, sa law enforcement, and doon sa supposedly regulator. Kaya mas mainam nandyan na yan. Wala naman tayong pera, mga kababayan.
And last topic,
nandyan yan, pwede natin pakinabangan yan. I-regulate lang natin through legislation.
And speaking of regulation, yung last topic natin, what do you think of the bastardization of the party list system?
That should be revisited.
Okay.
That should be revisited.
Okay.
Wala na hong marginalized sa higit na karamihang party list na in-accredit ng COMELEC. At yan ay dapat repasuhin, yan dapat ay bisitahin. Hindi ko lamang natitiyak kung pwedeng may legislation or we really have to address the issue of the Constitution. But hindi po under the present administration ng Bongbong Marcos administration natin pag-usapan ang pagbubukas ng saligang batas dahil iba ang intensyon ng mga ito, iba ang layunin ng mga ito.
Well, on that note, Atty. Vic Rodriguez, 2 sentences. Bakit ka tumatakbong senador ngayon?
Sapagkat ang dami kong nakakausap, sinasabi Atty. Vic, kami naniniwala sa iyo, pero parang, yung iba naman talaga, statement na, ang hirap mahalin ng Pilipinas, ang hirap mahalin ng Pilipino. Sabi ko, teka muna, ang pakiusap ko at sa inyo rin, let us not give up on our country. Let us not give up on the Philippines. Let us not give up on our fight and war on corruption. Posible ho ang pagbabago. At ako po muli, si Atty. Vic Rodriguez, ang inyong aplikante pagkasenador.
Maraming salamat po, Atty. Vic Rodriguez. I'm really happy. Maraming salamat
Thank
po.
you.
And before I go, yun na nga, napakahirap mahalin ng Pilipinas. In fact, mas madali pang mahalin yung single mom na may 5 anak. So, please, baguhin na natin yung pananaw natin sa buhay. At yun na nga, I'm encouraging all Filipinos to participate in this course. Gusto natin na talagang mai-articulate natin yung mga saloobin natin para hopefully in the next election sa 2025 ay yung mga desisyon natin kung sino iboboto natin ay patungo sa magandang buhay ng mga Pilipino. Cheers guys, salamat po at muli, ito si Ibi Jugalbot, your amateur pundit, live in Cebu. Thank you so much, Atty. Vic Rodriguez and Threadfall Studios. Happy birthday, Pamela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, attorney. I still have